Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to Alignment August Week 3. This week, we are talking about experience. I am so excited to be on here. As you can see, my environment has changed. I am currently at my childhood home. And I decided to take this call outside. I'm celebrating something amazing today that I'll get into a little bit later in the video. But I wanted to still do this weekly check in because I do think it's important to get a little meta about the challenge and each of the prompts and the things that we are acting on within our business to really explore this concept of alignment during this month. So, welcome in, welcome back. I'm glad to have you here and excited for what this conversation might bring for us. So, I am live on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So, feel free if you are watching this replay, comment replay down below so that I can know that you are willing to take this challenge with us, right? If you are not aware of what the Alignment August Challenge is, it is an opportunity for business owners and business leaders to take a step back and look at what they are doing and why before we get into the last kind of big push for the rest of the year. The fall and the winter are very busy for many business owners. And it is where a lot of money is made for businesses. They can have a slow Q1, Q2, but they know that they're going to make up for it Q3, Q4. And if your business works like that, awesome, fantastic. This is the perfect opportunity to say, all right, what are we doing intentionally? By now, campaigns have been planned, products have been identified to, what's going to be pushed and what's not. Service providers know that budgets are about to wrap up or have wrapped up and new budgets are coming out. So, getting in where they fit in, right? It's the perfect opportunity for us to take a step back and ask ourselves, all right, this is what I've decided. How do I ensure that it aligns with the direction I'm trying to go? If I haven't thought of that way yet or already. So, the Alignment August Challenge is each week, people going through the Alignment August Challenge have been getting prompts. Something to do every single day, something to reflect on, something to act on. And this week, the theme of those prompts was experience. Yesterday, today is Tuesday. I had normally been doing the Alignment August check-ins on Monday, but I couldn't do it yesterday because I was on a farm tour. If you know anything about me, you know that agriculture and agritourism is a special interest of mine. And so I'd like to talk about how farms can incorporate agritourism as a business model, as a revenue stream, as it becomes more challenging to sell commodities. I am a firm believer as a brand strategist, understanding the game, the mechanics of the commodity industry. As soon as the demand for that plummets, as soon as the barriers to access or to export or import change, as soon as the geopolitical relationships are put over fire, that commodity game becomes increasingly difficult. And this is why, even non agriculturally, if we're looking at the business of the commodity, I am someone who agrees with building a brand. Because when you build for commodity, you have to rely on bulk. You have to rely on constant growth, constant reach, constant transactions, oftentimes constant small transactions. That is, you are in the bulk game. I believe we're coming to a time period where that's just not sustainable for some of the small businesses that I work with. Bulk is not happening. It costs so much to access the reach required to make bulk sustainable, to make the commodity approach sustainable. So I believe in building a brand. And so when we talk about experience, that is a huge part of it. Yesterday, I went on a farm tour. And I kind of want to give you a little background as to why I do this every year. So in 2024, I was celebrating 5 years. Yeah, 5 or 6 years in business, child. I don't know. And I said, I want to treat myself to something that I've been curious about and something that excites me. And so I signed up to go on this farm tour hosted by the North Carolina Association, or North Carolina Agritourism Networking Association. And it was on that tour that I met some of the most amazing human beings. They were so welcoming and created such a space for curiosity and learning that I said, how do I have access to this more frequently? So joined the association, went to the conference that following winter. But during the farm tour, we got to tour, I think, 5 farms or wineries. And around that time, I had just finished one of my certifications to become a sommelier. That's a whole separate video. And so I was very interested in the business of wine and hearing, oh, the wine industry is not growing. This generation has a different relationship with wine. What do we do about that, right? So I was just very interested in that. And I met some people who were farmers in my area that I didn't know and have really developed an amazing friendship with them. And so this is my annual treat for me as a business owner. I saw this post online talking about, why don't adults do field trips? And I'm like, this was a field trip. That was a huge field trip for me to go out and learn about other people's businesses and learn about the challenges that they have overcome or are still dealing with, or what they keep top of mind, or where their priorities lie, or what their capacity looks like. It's all of the things that have shaped my perspective when it comes to how to build a business that you can sustain. And this concept of alignment, knowing that who you are, how you operate, and the experience you provide should all tell the same story. So yesterday is my third year in a row going on this summer farm tour. And I not only, I'm on the board of the Agritourism Association now, representing the Southeast District. I am constantly in conversation with people who are looking at what they have and building despite. And that's candy to me. I love that experience. And I'm going to tie a little bit of what I learned in the farm tour yesterday into the conversation that we have today about experience. So, one of the things that I believe is a misconception when it comes to the experience of your business is that the customer is the only one having one. And that is where I see a lot of the breakdown happen for business owners. They're saying, I can't understand why I keep getting these customer complaints. And they're looking at the product or the service, or, what did the customer not understand, instead of looking inward at their team. What conditions can I create for my team that allows them to deliver this experience in the way that my business or my brand is meant to be experienced? That is a huge question that I really want business owners to be asking themselves. Sometimes it doesn't start with the customer. It starts with who you have on the inside of your business. And even if you are the solo, even if you're the only one in your business, instead of being frustrated about what you have or have not built, or what you have or have not achieved, or what the client's feedback is to you, ask yourself, what conditions have I created for myself that allow me to deliver my business, my brand experience in the way that I want my business to be perceived? For me, that means taking breaks. That means traveling to explore how other businesses are operating, connecting with peers in my industry, getting on stage to talk through my ideas and process them in public, to have the rush of being accountable to my words, to these thoughts that I have been ruminating on for some time. Those are that's a huge question to ask yourself. What conditions have you created for yourself to allow you to deliver on the experience that you want? And this is why I say it is so important for us to be intentional about what we want to create and do it by design, because it's going to happen anyway. If you knew something, if you knew, you know, your reputation is going to happen anyway. That's truly what a brand is. How does someone remember you? Your reputation is going to happen anyway. Don't you feel more empowered when you have a stake in that? A stake in that perception, a stake in that delivery or that influence? I do. And a lot of my clients do. But they have spent a lot of time working in the business. They have spent a lot of time focusing on growth, focusing on getting the clients, focusing on establishing the relationships. How do we spend just a little bit of time in intentionally building an experience that we want our business to embody? So, one of the prompts, how do you want people to feel when they're working with you? That's brand strategy all the way, right? How do we create the conditions for that person to feel that way? How historically over time, what were the conditions if you've had client feedback and they have said, this is how I felt, and you're like, yes, that's exactly what I want people to feel. What were the conditions of that? How can we replicate that? Was that a client that was better fit for your business versus someone who had a completely different experience? and they were a different type of client, maybe they weren't a good fit. If you are changing your business strategy based on a client that did not have a good experience and they are not the client that you need to serve or that you should be serving, you're switching up your entire business strategy and having thoughts of imposter syndrome and misalignment for nothing. When the true misalignment was that is not your customer. We have to ask ourselves these things. Um, how are we onboarding our team? That is a huge question that introduces a lot of misalignment in the businesses that I've worked with. Even personally, when I felt like I remember working with a company and they brought me in for social media management. And I felt like I had a great grasp of what social media management was. What I didn't get, and I didn't have the experience to push back on, was getting a solid introduction into how that business owner wanted me to operate and what the process was. I was given a social account and a password, and they said, go ahead and create something for us. Of course, they hated it. I didn't receive any brand guidelines. I didn't receive any instructions. They said, we have seen what you have done for others. Here's our social account. Go for it. And I did not do a good job. And for the longest time, I was like, oh my gosh, I suck at this. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I am never going to be good at this. I went down a whole rabbit hole when I didn't know to advocate for a better introduction to the business. I had just done the work. And that business owner didn't offer a runway into this is who we are and this is how we do things. And this is how we show up on social media. And this is what our brand voice is. And this is what our imagery looks like. And this is how we engage with our community. I didn't get that. And that is not to say anyone is in the wrong, because as someone providing a service, I should have asked for that. But that offered maturity to me. That allowed me to mature as a service provider and say, I understand now what was missing. And I understand now why I didn't understand the experience that they were trying to provide. And this is why, as I have built out my frameworks and built out my methodology, I understand the experience doesn't just happen for the client. The aftermath of that would have been that our community felt disconnected from that post. There was no engagement. It didn't get the reach that we normally have. They were whiplashed. And that's valid. That's valid. But the experience is inside and outside of the business. That's also like, I think it's tomorrow's prompt, is describing a client or customer interaction that you were truly proud of. What made it work? What made it work? What made it brilliant? What made it create that feeling in you to say, this is how this is supposed to be. This is why I got into this business in the first place. What did it? Reflecting on that is critical. That is what helps guide us into a lot of the decision making that we have the opportunity to do within our business. If we are looking to retain that client has come over and over and over again, what makes it possible for that to happen? Clearly that is success. What is success look like repeated? What else do we need to do? How do we need to speak to our customers to make them come back again? Where do we source that information from? We source it from the successes. We source it from the client business relationships that truly feel aligned. Ooh. So I kind of think of the key players in our business as our clients, for sure, our employees, absolutely, our team, and then like the community at large, people who may not have transactions with you. Community, it could be investors, could be people who can't spend the money right now, but they are absolutely sharing the heck out of your business. Those people are still important. And so the questions for this experience week capture all of those relationships. What do those things look like? What makes those successful? How are you building trust between your business and your community at large, and not just those key players? You know, if we have to prioritize, yes, clients, team, community. Different business models might feel differently about that. You know, that commodity business type might want to prioritize that larger community, especially if they are investors, especially if they are people who are wanting a return on their investment and it's by any means necessary. The client relationship might not be what is emphasized, what is the top priority. It is the transactions, it's the return. And if you're building a business like that, this may not be for you. You can go ahead and exit out now. I'm not talking about that kind of business. I'm talking about the kind of business where our clients and our team are the priority. But we do not ignore our impact in our community and the trust that gets to be built there. So if you are doing Alignment August, kudos to you. These are hard things to think about. But getting in the practice of thinking about your business, looking down on it, going very meta, going outside of just your work, your day to day, and saying, what am I doing on purpose? What is happening by happenstance? What am I doing on accident? Right? We have a beautiful opportunity to ask ourselves these questions and spend the rest of the month doing so. So, thank you so much for joining me for this check-in. I realize I didn't talk as much about the farm tour as I wanted to, but I think what was delivered here was good. And the cicadas are going crazy right now. So I may have to take a break and make another video about that. If you're doing Alignment August, drop it in the comments. What has come up for you this week? And I'll see you next Monday at our final week's check-in. All right? See you next time.